Welcome to Wisdom Within with Tina and Tonya. We have a great topic for you today. It is all things boundaries, specifically around people. So stay tuned. This is a good one. You're going to want to hear this. But before we jump into that, if you're done conforming to others' expectations, if you're done suppressing your wants and needs and pretending like everything is fine, you're done feeling like life has no meaning, and you're ready to really build a supportive relationship primarily with yourself, and you're ready to address the resentments, the disappointments, and those negative feelings, negative vibe that comes from suppressing your needs and wants, and you're ready to transform your life from the inside out, then you're in the right place. We're going to teach you how to do this using practices that will support you mind, body, and spirit. So before we dive into all things boundaries, Tina, will you kind of help us set the space?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Just bring yourself in. Take a deep breath in. Pull back all those energies that we've sent out. Feel yourself in the chair. Oh, okay.
All right, awesome.
Ah.
So, Tina and I have over the years developed some really strong boundaries in some ways. And then we get together and, like, here we go, boundaries with my cat. And we um, recognize every now and then that we have the need to even create boundaries around those healthy, positive, supportive relationships as well. So, let's start with toxic people because I know that that is very near and dear to everyone's heart and kind of give some ideas around that. Tina, do you want to start us off with that a little bit?
Sure. So toxic people. So what does that mean, right? So um anyone who may be not good for you, not good, not some or somebody who could be hurting you in a way that um, you're not uh, that messes with your sense of well-being. And so I've had several. I have a lot of or have had in the past toxic people that
He's just going to keep hanging out. So,
he's like, I just want to run back and forth.
yep, I just want to be on camera.
Yep. So and what I've had to do for myself is I've had to put up that energetic boundary for one, and just kind of hold that, space. If I've had to be around those people, I have to really block that energy. But for the most part, it's like, and I'm done. And I'm like, I won't associate with them. I can love them from afar, and I don't need to be in that, you know, in that energy, in that space with them.
Mhm.
So, um, for me, it used to take me a long time to really get that pissed
Mhm.
to where I'm like, I'm done. And nowadays, it's like it's not even pissed off. It's like I know that this person is going to mess with my sense of well-being, and that's, I think we talked about this in another previous video, is like protecting your well-being, because we have to protect ourselves above anything else, right? And so
Mhm.
when we're protecting our sense of well-being, um and we have to blah 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 blah. But yeah, protecting our sense of well-being by cutting out those toxic people, or by putting up those energetic shields, is what I have had to do.
Mhm.
So
I and I think one of the things that makes boundaries and setting boundaries so challenging is the programming and conditioning that we have around it, right? Like there is this, we're taught as kids that we basically, in a lot of variety of ways of saying it, it's sweep things under the rug, pretend like you're okay, just don't make this other person feel uncomfortable, like suck it up, basically. And yet there's something within us that knows that that's not okay, that that's not the right way to go. And so I think that that programming sticks with us, and it makes it really challenging because in order for me to, you know, set that boundary, I have to go against everything I've been taught and told growing up. And it really can be challenging. Um, and it's hard at first, I think, to even, for me at least, it was really hard for me to even recognize that the way that I was being treated and the things that were coming from toxic people was not okay because it was all I knew. And so I had to work on, like, I remember just really having those moments where it was like, I can't believe that just happened, and really recognizing that, I needed to set a boundary. Um, I think the other thing that makes it challenging is that typically those toxic people that we need to set boundaries with are really good at being toxic. And they're really good at turning it around to, it's not me, it's you, right? And then making you feel guilty for not having them in your life or having to set those boundaries, having to put not priorities. Um, anyway, boundaries, setting limits, um, kind of putting some rules up where in order for us to interact together, this is how it has to look. And they don't like that. And so they push against that. And we start to question ourselves. And of course, there's the cycle again, right? So I think first it starts with even being aware of what's happening for you and truly honoring and being willing to admit your experience and be honest, like radical honesty with yourself about your experience with that particular person. Even if you don't share it with them, just that inner knowing, I think is where it even has to start.
Right. I totally agree with that. And as you were talking about that, it's like we're taught to people please. And so when it's like putting other people's comfort before ours. So, we put we don't want them to feel bad. So we're going to sit here and feel bad ourselves, or we're going to be in that uncomfortable situation or feel like they're, you know, beating us up emotionally. Or um we I lost my thought. It was like I had a thought and it was gone. But yeah, it's like all those people pleasing tendencies come up because that's what we were taught. We're taught that when we're younger. We're taught that as we are in relationships, especially when, we have these families who have done this for years and years. It's like generation after generation after generation. And I can't say just families, friends, whatever, but we're raised in a certain way. And so then we attract certain people to us, right? And so then we have these people that are coming to us that are the same as what we were raised with. And then we get the gaslighting. We get the people who are, making us feel guilty because we want to back off a little bit or move away from these relationships or whatever. And so it's really hard to set those boundaries when it's all we know. And like you said, the awareness is the biggest thing. And the I think it takes a lot of inner work in knowing how this person makes me feel whenever I'm around this person. So it's like, how do I feel when I'm around this person? And is this something that I want to accept?
Mhm.
And then it's starting to put up those boundaries. And that's when you start to get that pushback, right? And you'll put up a boundary and they try to push that boundary. And so you have to be really strong in your knowing and understanding. And a lot of it is self-love. It's looking at yourself and understanding what you need and if that's not, if you're not getting that from that person, then it's time to set the boundaries.
Hmm.
And I know it's really hard to do, but that's one thing that I've learned in all my years is that it's hard to do. And the other thing is it's hard to do. And once they start pushing the boundaries, and when you push back, eventually they'll be like, "Oh, okay." You know, it's kind of like when I quit drinking. I had because my family's a bunch of drinkers, and every time I'd go around them, "Oh, you can just have one. You can just, and I'd be like, "No, no, no." And now of course, it took, it's been, I don't know, 10 years. I can't remember how long it's been since I quit drinking. But nowadays, it's like they don't even blink,
Yeah.
when we go around. It's like, she's drinking water. They don't
Yeah.
even ask. They
More
know,
for us.
Yep.
I I really resonate with that and the difficulty in it. And I think one thing that has been helpful for me was recognizing um what was happening when I was getting those pokes from the toxic people. So, for example, I remember because sometimes it's like, okay, it's easier to just not go to a house or to not go for me anyway, to just because I'm busy, I have a lot going on, I've got kids, it's easy to just be busy all the time, right? But when you start putting like more defined boundaries, it can get a little bit more challenging because, like you said, they want to poke. They're like, it's almost like that. Oh, you said we can't come over. Oh, let's play with that. It's almost like challenge accepted. And it's like, no, I'm not challenging you. I'm not playing a game. You really can't come to my house. You really can't have access to me. And there is a push pull. And especially the more toxic the person, the more they have that feeling of you don't get to tell me what to do. Well, actually, I do. I'm an adult. I own the house. I whatever. Like I do get to decide. And it's a it's a power trip, but when you step out of I'm not in this as a power play, I'm not in this to negotiate with you, I'm not in this to play games, like this is really where we're going with it, then it's serious and there's a different energy behind it. And I think one thing that I had to do was even with the phone, because the phone was one way that people could still get to me, right? I couldn't just not be home or whatever. They can always get to me through my phone. And I remember one specific day, I'd had such a great day. Like it was like top 10 day. And I was just sitting at the end of the day, swimming in this amazing vibe of the day. It was so positive, so fun, kids stuff, family stuff, just doing the thing and just loving the feeling of the day. And I get a really shitty, rude text that came through. And it took me from my high to instant low. And it really upset me. And yes, I mean, okay, I could have had my phone in another room. There's all those things I could have done. But regardless, I would have eventually had to address this message. And it was in that moment where I really realized this person has complete, like it is at their disposal when they get to message me, how it comes through. Anytime they're feeling crappy and wanting to lash out and I am their whipping post, they get to do that. And even if I don't respond, even if I say nothing, it was impacting me. And that was when I was like, okay, it's time for me to set this boundary. And I actually messaged that person back whatever my response was. But the end of it, I said, I'm blocking you now. And I did. I blocked them on my phone so they couldn't message on my phone. Then they went to social media and I had to block them from all social media. And that is like a strict boundary. And I actually have not lifted that yet. They're still blocked from everything access for me. And it's been like 6 years. So it is really recognizing how is this impacting my life, my family time, my loved ones time, and they were just trying to vent. I don't know, whatever they were trying to do, make themselves feel better or something by being rude to me. And it was like that was the moment where I'm like, this isn't healthy for me because it is really impacting my quality of life as well as how I show up for my loved ones too, my kids, my whatever, because now mom just went and just now I'm like having to pretend like I'm happy. And it just, I don't know, that was a good moment for me, a pivotal moment for me to be able to put those strong boundaries in place. And I didn't plan on it lasting forever. It was like for right now, until things kind of settle, this is the new rule. Um, but things have never really settled. So it says stayed in place. And yeah, so I think it's in the beginning for me, it had to get to that point where it was like, and I'm done. And you don't get full access, unrestricted access to me anymore, period, the end. Now it doesn't, like, the more I set them and the more I'm aware of that, like what you were saying, like I
Mm,
don't need that much time to, like, now I'm like, nope, no,
right.
and be gone.
Yep. That's how exactly. That's how I am. I've had to set that same that sim a similar boundary, um, and where I had to block them and all the things too. And so, yeah, it's definitely it's hard, and especially if it's a family member and somebody who you're supposed to be close to or whatever that because society says that you're supposed to be close to your family or whatever, then it's it's a hard way to do that.
Mhm.
But um yeah. So what are some other ways that you set boundaries? So I'm thinking like energetic too. What are some ways that you do that?
I have done cord cutting. I have done, because for me, um, them have being able to have that energetic attachment to me, even though it almost like keeps the drama alive. There's almost like a pull, a draw to them. And I feel that I used to really be in tune with, I had an individual who lived in the same town as me, and I could feel that energy of theirs, like when they were starting to spin and starting to get angry with me. And I could sense it. I could feel it coming. And it was sure enough, within a couple of days, I'd get some kind of message or something. And distance helped. Luckily, I mean, I lucked out. That individual moved away. I don't have that anymore in that way, but it was still coming in other ways. And so I did a cord cutting ritual, really set that intention, had the two candles tied together, had a really cool ritual that evening, and just allowed that to kind of burn, setting that intention that the cords that are connecting us energetically are cut, they're gone, and not to be replaced and not coming back. Um, so I've done that. I do even, I love things we've talked about before, like the Epsom salt baths. For me, it's cleansing that energy, clearing that energy. Also working with Archangel Michael, I like to envision that big old sword of his to, cutting those cords. Um, I mean, I've quite often wearing the black tourmaline just to be able to kind of keep that energy um, away. So that those are some of my favorite go-to practices, but I think it's the intention, right? It is the intention of I am cutting this. You no longer get to have access to me. And what it does is it feels different to me. I don't necessarily have control. I don't at all actually have control of what's going on their end. But for me, I'm not attached to that anymore. The emotion is gone. It's cut. I don't sit every day wondering and worrying and stewing and being concerned. It's just gone. And that's
Mhm.
been a big relief for me, which is what I wanted, was to be able to feel that relief. What about you?
Yeah, the same. I've had to do some and we talked about this in our psychic protection. Oh, I think we've talked about this a few times in some of our videos, but um I've had to do the I did a cord cutting a couple and this one was like very
Super intense.
very intense, and um but it really helped to for me it helped to really, like what you said, it just kind of helped to release, and it was all the intention. It helped to release. Now I don't even I used to always be like, oh, I really need to call this person, or oh, I really need to check in with these. And I don't even think about it anymore. It's like, and so it was just that intention of releasing. So I did that. I've done it with a couple of different times with the cord cutting, and then also cutting, doing with Archangel Michael, having him cut cords at night helps to keep those kind of going. I know we have a mutual friend who helps with cutting cords too, right? Didn't she
Mhm.
help you with something too recently with
Mhm.
releasing those cords? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so I think energetically it is important for us to, we're not only we are holding those boundaries, physical boundaries, but we also need to hold those energetic boundaries, because like what you said, they throw those daggers, they can start attacking you psychically or whatever, and you feel it.
Mhm.
And when you can set up those energetic boundaries, it really is
Mhm.
a good way to keep uh, your sense of well-being, and be feeling, good about things, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but
Well, and I think the other thing that's really important is really trusting your what you know, your inner knowing, that inner wisdom that you have, because what you'll get a lot from the outside is you'll get guilt, you'll get shamed, you'll get
Mhm.
people who are saying you should have done this, you should have tried harder, you should have, and they're putting all the should have on you instead of on this individual of like nobody bothers to go tell them to knock their shit off. They go to you of all the things you should have, would have, could have. So I think it's recognizing that you don't have to do all those things and trust yourself. Like because one of the things that often comes up is have that conversation with someone. I do love that with certain types of people, right? Because there are people in my life right now that all day long I could have that conversation with them. And they would be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that was going on. And we would work it out and it would be fine. Or even boundaries that I would have to set with them and being able to explain that. But there are those people that no matter what you say and how you say it and how hard you try, it doesn't matter. And it feels like we know that intuitively, that it will fall on deaf ears, that instead of them even acknowledging it, they will turn around and gaslight us. They will really take it as a challenge accepted. Like, oh, no, you didn't just tell me. Like, so you have to really be okay with not like letting other people be disappointed in you or thinking that you didn't do it right. But you also don't have to listen to them. That's something that I know my sister has been really good with, letting people know, like, of course I'll go to lunch with you, but this is not a topic we're discussing. Like,
Mhm.
she tells it before they even go so that if they're like, oh, well, okay, maybe they'll ghost her or what. You're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
then never mind. But she's setting that boundary and she's making it very clear. Yes, we can go to lunch. I love to see you. I want to hang out with you, but this topic is not on the table. And so you can set, again, that's a boundary, but it's a boundary around someone who will respect that because that person most likely will. And if they won't, then we know, okay, no lunch, no dinner, no whatever. So, um, so I do love the idea of being able to have a conversation with someone and giving them an opportunity to respect you in a different way, see you in a different light, respect the boundaries that you're trying to set. But trust your judgment and trust your intuition. And there are times and individuals where that is actually not correct advice, right?
Mhm. Right. I mean, you and I both have those people in our lives, and it definitely, because I know I tried to have conversations around, before I started blocking one specific person in my life. I had these conversations. I tried my darndest, and it just fell on deaf ears, and so that's the toxic part, right? They are toxic. I know we use that word a lot we hear that a lot. Toxic parents, toxic friends, toxic this, toxic, but we know what toxic is. And it's those people like that who are, the gaslighters who are going to turn everything around that you try to say something in a, uh, so I had a situation where it was like anytime I would try to straightforward and I think I'm pretty straightforward and I try to communicate. Most of the time I can communicate okay. My brain shuts off sometimes, but you know, and I would just have try and have these straightforward conversations and it would come back to me as something totally different than what I even imagined, and I'm just like, where did this come from? And so those kinds of things, when you're seeing those kinds of things, that's a huge red flag. And that's something that is not, and if it makes you feel like, and that's the gaslighting part, makes you feel like you're going crazy or makes you feel like you're confused as to what, I said this, that's not what.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, uh, when we have those people, that's the toxic people in our lives. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
trust your gut, trust your own inner wisdom, trust your knowing that
Mm-hmm.
that this is not right. So
Mm-hmm. It's unhealthy.
yeah.
So let's talk about boundaries for the people who are not fitting into that toxic category. So maybe these are your kids or your partner or your friends or coworkers or people that you actually really do have a great rapport with, great relationship, people who will listen to the boundaries and will respect those boundaries. How do you know like when to set those and how and what and when and all the things? Tell us all about
Tell
that,
all
Tina.
about it. So it's, to me it's when it's that going back to our sense of well-being. If we're not feeling like we are taking care of ourselves because we're putting all these other people first, then it's time to set a boundary. Because and especially like I know you and me, we're kind of nurturers. We want to take care of the family, we want to take care of the kids, we want to take care of everybody, but when it's at the expense of our own sense of well-being or even our health, because I mean we do, and I know people, and I've done it. We tend to take care of everybody else, and then we end up sick, or
Mhm.
we end up hurting, or we end up not feeling right, And so when we're noticing, it's that awareness again, when we're noticing how it feels when we are putting these people first, then we have to take that back. We have to start um, putting ourselves first, which, is like a no-no in our society for
Mhm.
women, especially. It's like we should, got to put everybody else first, but we have to put ourselves first, our sense of well-being. And because and the one thing that I know is that if I'm sick, I can't take care of everybody else, right? So, and sick could mean physically sick, could be mentally struggling, could be, my sense of well-being is totally screwed up,
Energetic. It can be
energetic.
energetic.
Yeah. I'm like not feeling, I'm feeling out of sorts. I'm not able to be there. So, what it does is if we can set those boundaries and take care of ourselves first, and that would mean like even, um, say your kids are, I don't know, they're teenagers and they want to come in. Well, okay, I'll just do it. My kids. My kids are both adults, okay? And they still like, well, because I work from home and but they still want to call me anytime during the day. And I'm like, there are times when I need to work or whatever, and they'll want to just jabber, 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 jabber. And so I have to kind of set those boundaries and be like, can we talk at a different time? I've got things I got to get done.
Hmm.
And so there's those. Now, when you have little kids, it's hard. And even teenagers, I know, because the teenagers, they come in and they're like, Mom, but taking those or setting those little boundaries, I think, is one thing, because what it does is it helps you to be in a better place mentally, physically, emotionally, all the things, to be able to be a better parent, to be able
Hmm.
to be a better friend, or spouse, or
Hmm.
whatever. So
Well, and thinking of kids, because I started this with my kids when they were younger. So if you have young kids, now is the time. But even if they're adults, you can start it. Like there's no time where this works or needs to or whatever. But um, I have always had uh, times during my day because I've worked since my kids were little. And the work I did before working for myself, there were often times when I couldn't step away. Um, High profile, high priority, high intensity times I couldn't step away. Now there's times like this when I'm on a call with you, or I'm on a call with a client, or I'm doing a Reiki session. Like there's times where I just can't drop everything and answer the phone. And so I explained that to my kids, even when they were little, like, hey, if it's an emergency, keep calling. Or actually, if it's an emergency, you better be calling 911. Like I should not be even on the call list. Let them call me. But but I kind of had to teach them that. And you can teach them that whether they're young, teenagers, or adults with, if I don't answer the phone, send me a text. If you send me a text and I don't answer it, you can try and call. But if I'm not answering, then you're going to have to just wait. And one of the things that I am so grateful for that taught all of us was that mom is not like, it really kind of prepared them um to solve their own problems. Like they actually had to, and I see the value in that now that they're older, is they had to work through some things on their own. No, it wasn't bleeding and broken bones, thankfully, but they were required to work through challenges to find solutions that would work for them, to find ways to end the fighting between them. Like there was a lot that came from that because I wasn't the one handling all the problems, solving all the problems. Now, as adults, they call me, and it's really great because, especially like my oldest, he'll be like, "Hey, are you busy?" And usually, if I'm answering the phone, I'm not. But sometimes I can just be like, "Yeah, I just need like a few minutes. Let me call you later," or "I'm just getting ready to do this." We have a great respect in that way. I do the same with him. My oldest has this uncanny, or my middle one has an uncanny ability to call like the minute I hang up. Like he's just got it down. It's really cool. But it's been fun to watch that because now they call me from a place of excitement to tell me about what's going on, or even to vent, but they're not calling me in a crisis and in a panic, and they're working it out on their own. And I actually have a lot of value of that. So setting that boundary even with my kids at a younger age has really taught them to work through challenges and struggles. So it's been such a good teaching moment too. And I think even as if your kids are adults, of course, of course we want to call home, right? And so understanding that, but also I don't live where you guys always live. I'm not in the vicinity all the time. I do not have the technical knowledge to help you if your vehicle breaks down. Please don't call me. I can't help you. You know what I mean? And so it's really kind of taught them to be resourceful on their own, in their own way. So that was a way for me to set a loving boundary that has really kind of been more of a gift for all of us than I even realized. It wasn't meant to be that way in the beginning, but it's turned out to be so cool. So I think there are ways we can set those loving boundaries, even with our children, and have it turn out for the best. They don't hate me for it,
Right.
It's actually been really cool. So,
Yeah. I agree. Well, being a single mom, I had to do the same thing, with both my kids too. And so, yeah, I do see that. But I also see that I have allowed them to, like, that because I'm working from home. If I was at an office, they would never call me during the day. And that's one thing Joe has always been. He's like totally, he has this line. He's like, if I'm at work, you do not call me unless it's you're dying. And he would never call me at work unless, he was dying, whatever, you know. And so, and that's how the girls, well, my youngest especially because she was raised with Joe, but that's how she learned. And so, yeah, but I think it is very healthy for them too. But I need to learn to set those bigger boundaries with the older ones now that but then it's like, I want to talk to them.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of it too, right? With like
Yeah.
the healthy boundaries and the healthy
Yeah.
people that we work with to be able to say, like looking at our own workload, where can I create space
Hmm.
for them to be able to chat? You know,
Right.
is there a day that we have the ability to do that? Not everyone does, but if there is a time when you're working from home or even on a weekend or even that time when you just need to de-escalate a little, to maybe just drop that quick text and say, hey, are you, and I send that to my kids sometimes where I'm like, hey, can't take this call right now. You okay? And
Hmm.
he's like, yep, catch me later. So, and
Yeah.
sometimes I can't take this call right now means I'm just getting ready to go take my bath, or
Mhm.
I just need a minute to relax. And I think that we need to remember that even if we're setting a boundary like that, saying no, not right now, we don't have to explain ourselves. I don't need to tell them what I'm doing. And it's
Right.
not that that activity is more important than them. It's that if I'm going to show up for this phone call with you or this experience with you, I need to be able to be there because right now I'm tapped out and you've got
Mhm.
nothing. So I need a minute to kind of sit in my own energy and then I can call you back. And I think even with the healthy people in our lives, those relationships that truly do nurture us, being able to create some boundaries around that in a similar way um, can really enrich those relationships and make them so much even more beneficial for you both by setting some boundaries around topics or around time or around days or whatever it may look like. Have you had experience with that as well?
Mhm.
Maybe you're like, yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Um, I do have one in mind. I had a client who was helping her elderly mother. And mom was lonely and just really wanted her daughter to come by, which makes all the sense in the world. And they have a beautiful relationship. But what was going on in kind of with my client was uh, there were no boundaries around that. So, for example, she was doing grocery shopping for mom. And mom had a specific list that she wanted and specific brands, and there was several different stores that she had to run between, and she had to go every single day. And that whole thing was creating a lot of resentment and bitterness with my client that was impacting relationship with elderly mom. So we started talking about, and I'm like, what would feel right to you? And she's like, I don't want to go every day to the store. I don't mind going to see mom every day, but I don't want to go to the store. So they actually were able to have that conversation to be able to say, I'll come hang out with you and we can visit every day when I leave work. But for me to have to go to the store and have to go to several different stores and all these things is draining on me. It's causing problems for me. I don't get to see my own family. Like it was creating a lot of havoc in her life. So that was one of those times where having that communication was the great advice because she didn't have to go into all the detail. She just said, I need to shift some things in my life and do some things a little bit differently. Here's how it's going to look now because she was kind of setting it up. This is what I'm going to do. You might not get the brands that you want. You might not get exactly from every different store and you might fluctuate on price a little, but here's the boundary I'm setting. And I'm basically offering this gift to you of the boundary so that when I do come over for a little bit after work each day, I actually do get to spend even more time with you because now I'm not chasing for an hour and then only have 15 minutes to hang out with you. I can come over and spend an hour with you. And anyway, it just made such a beautiful relationship even stronger and allowed some of those resentments and disappointments and all the things that come with it to really just kind of go away. And all it took was deciding what am I willing to do that would make this more beneficial for me as well as my mom, basically, and then share that information. So I thought
Yeah.
that was a really beautiful example of that.
Yeah, I love that. That's way cool. And as you were talking about that, I was thinking about my right now, what's going on with me in my life. So I have, working from home, and I have not set boundaries, or I had in previously had not set any boundaries, um, with and I know, with Joe, or in the house. And, now it's like, I've been setting these boundaries. It's like, and it's funny because I'm like, okay, I'm in my office at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, and so now it's what it jokingly, I'll walk into my office and I'll be like, see you at noon, honey,
On my
and
lunch
so
break.
yeah, I'll be home for lunch. And so I've had to set those types of boundaries, and it's been fun because I'm actually, and so now he doesn't, because it used to be he's never been really one to interrupt me when I'm, working or whatever, but he would still kind of, you know, like cleaning the house during the day on Wednesdays. Let's vacuum and clean on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever, and different things like that. And I'm like, no, this is my time for work. And then we'll do that when I get done working. And so I've had to set those fun boundaries. It's been interesting. It's been a few weeks, and I've been like, oh, this, and it's definitely helped my sense of well-being. And it's, we have this boundary now to where I'm feeling like I'm actually able to come in here, do my work. I'm not worrying about the house. I'm not worrying about my laundry. I'm not worrying about anything else, and so it's been
I
kind of
love it.
cool.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, are there any other relationship boundaries or anything with people that we can think of that we have missed?
I'm sure there's probably some, but
We could
there's
always go
always
on
some. It's
forever.
like, yeah, we could talk forever on these things, but
Yes.
um, I think,
Um,
yeah.
I think it's just the important thing, summing it up, is going back to our wisdom within. If there's something that's upsetting you that's around that relationship, check in to see what boundary needs to be set. And it might even be one with you. Maybe for me, it's like I have to not share that topic with that person. That's my boundary that they don't even know exists, right?
Mhm.
So all those different things in place.
Yeah, and like you said, if there's a phone call that's coming in that, you know and you're home and you're doing your own thing, and this phone call is going to be something that is not going to be beneficial for you at that moment, then maybe text them and say, hey, can't take your phone call right now, or just little things like that, keeping noticing how you're feeling when you see those little things coming in, or you see, you notice that you're doing something that, like how I was with my business or whatever, how you notice that you're doing these things that aren't beneficial for your sense of well-being, and you're doing it, then go ahead and set those boundaries, or
Yeah, get
work on
started.
setting boundaries. Yeah.
And if you need help with setting boundaries, you're not sure where to start or where to go or how to do it, how to word it, all the things, then please reach out to Tina and I. We can both offer consults with you, see if there's a way we can help you with that. So I know that that's something we're both willing to help people with as well.
Yeah.
All right. Do we feel complete?
I think so.
I think so too. So, will you help us close this circle?
Sure. Take a deep breath in. One more deep breath in. Just bringing yourself back into your body. And yeah, go ahead and wiggle your body and your fingers and your toes. Just kind of feel yourself in your body.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please help us spread the word, like, subscribe, share, all the things, and we will be back with you soon.
Thank you.